If someone broke into your house and stole a prized family heirloom, but you did not have the language to describe the break-in, the destruction caused, or the heirloom itself, how would you ever begin to seek justice? How could you ever hope to reclaim what you'd lost if you did not know the words to describe the crime? The book, It's Perfectly Normal, was published in 1994. It was written by Robbie Harris and illustrated by Michael Emberley. It's a funny children's book featuring an exasperated bird and bee that help guide readers through tough subjects like learning about our bodies, the proper names for all of our parts, reproduction, abstinence, birth control, abortion, online safety, and even STIs. It has been the subject of innumerable book bans, with critics calling it child pornography, a tool for grooming kids. It's been removed from school library shelves in Washington and Pennsylvania because of concerns from people who believe it's too graphic, too explicit, too frank, too honest. When adults look at the images and information found within, they get uncomfortable and wonder what use this could possibly have to kids. In 1996, a mere 2 years after the book's original publication date, a 10-year-old girl found the book in a Delaware library. She took it home, and later that day, after reading the chapter on sexual abuse, she took the book to her mother and said, "This is about me." Turns out she was being abused by her father, but up until the day she'd found the book, she did not have the language to describe what had happened. She did not have the words to advocate for herself. Her father was later convicted in the Superior Court of Wilmington on multiple counts of unlawful sexual intercourse and was sentenced to 62 years in prison. The judge in the trial famously stated that there were two heroes in the case, the child and the book. The author herself said she disagreed with the judge. She said there were three heroes: the mother, who allowed the child to choose what she wanted to read, the child, and the child's school librarian, who believed that kids and teens have the right to access information. When the subjects of sex and sexuality come up, parents get very squeamish. Ayman Ismail wrote an article for Slate in 2023 describing his experience reading the book. He's a father to young children and believes that book bans are a product of hysteria. He wanted to read It's Perfectly Normal for himself to figure out why it was so challenged. He wrote the following, quote, "It's perfectly normal more than any other frequently banned title I have flipped through challenged my view. The images are not pornographic, and it's obvious that anti-gay sentiment is partly fueling the objection to the book, but the images are graphic, and it's startling to me to think they're intended for kids who aren't even in middle school yet. I realize my kids will be able to see worse on the internet before I know it, but I still wondered, is it so crazy not to want them to be able to find this in the library?" It's that last sentiment I see parents express the most, this begrudging admission that we all accept children have these questions about their bodies, about other people's bodies, that with as ubiquitous as tablets and phones and computers are in their lives, it's likely they're going to come across this information on their own, either because of those questions or because you can't go anywhere on the internet these days without seeing something uncomfortable. That they might even explore their bodies or each other's bodies, but that to somehow write about it is to condone it, perhaps even endorse it. For what it's worth, It's Perfectly Normal is intended to be an educational book. You're not going to find it on the shelf next to Lemony Snicket or If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. The most banned books in the country are those featuring stories about people who are queer and people of color. Books discussing sex, sexuality, racism, bigotry, homophobia, our bodies, our boundaries, and our safety. Why are they banned? Because the content makes adults uncomfortable, and they think banning the book will make the subject go away. But books reflect our lives. Children are still going to grow up in a world where they have to experience all of these things. We also know that children are more likely to read if the protagonist looks like them. When children of color, when queer kids, when disabled kids, when kids of all types see themselves in books, they are more likely to read those books. They can obtain the language to accurately describe their experiences, good and bad. And if they see themselves as the hero of a story, maybe they'll think they can be the hero of their own life and stand up for themselves. To do a brave thing, to go to an authority figure and say, "This is about me." If the only stories allowed to be told are those that meet the sensitivities of straight white parents, then that means that there are a lot of vulnerable children who will never be able to point to a page and say, "This is about me." You will create young people who do not have the language to advocate for themselves, to recognize harm. We are wrapping up Banned Book Week here in the United States, and while many people discuss that books should not be banned, I wanted to discuss why. Books give children language, but in a world where parental discomfort keeps these conversations from happening in the home while also preventing them from being taught in schools, book bans only serve to remove access to language. I think if parents really cared about keeping their children safe from predators, they would arm them with every tool they can. If you support giving children the ability to see themselves as the hero of their own story, you can buy a banned book. Though I would encourage you to maybe buy something current or buy a marginalized author whose career could use the support. To Kill a Mockingbird is great, but Harper Lee's estate is just fine. American Library Association is a great resource to find and support these books. You can also donate to PEN America. They're an organization helping to fight book bans around the country. And if you're an author, join Authors Against Book Bans. I'm a member. I'll see you there. Children deserve to see themselves as the hero of their own story. Let's end book banning together. Hope this helps.